Chairman Kipley. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, we have the East Range Joint Powers Fund. The first item is the account balances on pages 4 and 5. What should we know?
Just that is as of today's meeting. Usually all the loan payments come in around the 20th to the end of the month. So this is as of today. There usually will be more loan payments coming at the end of the month.
If there are no questions from the board, is there a motion to approve the account balances?
So moved. I'll support.
Moved by Chairman Kipley and supported by Administrator Lemmy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Approval of bills and payroll, pages 6 in your packet. Again, Sherry, what should we?
I did give you an extra handout at the end of your packet. Again, the bills are ran as of today, but we do have bills that need to be paid by the end of the month, which I added onto the second sheet. At the end there, yeah, Northspan hasn't given me the invoice yet, so we'll have to pay that. And then there's our CTC and EFTPS, our federal taxes or state taxes. So all of those are on the attached one. So that's the amount that we'd have to approve, is that $4,035.39.
Do we want, so just one motion rather than two motions for the two sets? Or?
Yeah, we can just go off the
Okay.
extra handout that I provided.
Right.
That can be in place of this.
The board, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion for. I'll second that one.
Okay. I'm sure Larry and Chairman Kipley. Yeah, but you have to pick up the pace here.
I'm good. I'm good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Board reorganization. So it is our task to appoint the 2025 board chair. And that's supposed to be.
That would be, the rotation would go Town of White is chair, by Wabick is vice chair. That's where we're at in our rotation.
Congratulations. So do we need to take action on that?
I believe we usually have
Okay.
a motion yet. I don't know if there's I don't think we have to do a vote because it is just a standard rotation, but I think we'll need a motion to.
It never hurts to have a motion on record.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I beg you will.
Moved by Administrator Landy. Is there support?
I'll support that.
Administrator Luke. Really bright today. And that's for both positions.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Guest updates, presentations. We don't have any presentations scheduled.
We do have a couple of people online here.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to start online, maybe Miriam, you want to start us off?
I can see her.
Good morning, folks. You can hear me now? Awesome. Yeah, so we held our new Iron Ranger gathering last Tuesday and hosted just a few folks. We had some people RSVP, and we know, during December with the holiday things that are going on, that we may or may not have a ton of attendees, but it was still just wonderful. So we had a watercolor artist, actually my mom. I roped her into helping, and she's an amazing artist. So she led us through some watercolor painting for us. And I include myself in this, folks who are scared to reattempt art after not touching it for decades. So that was lovely. We're in their final phases of updating our website. In fact, my job here is to review all the text. And so Hello Range will have a new face. We hope it's in the very beginning part of 2025. And we're in the planning stages for January, thinking about gatherings. And so my theme topic is going to be yoga. And so if anyone knows anybody over on that end of the range that would like to come and do a 30-minute session, that would be awesome. The goal of these gatherings, of course, is to have folks connect into community. So I'd love to have a practitioner who could just come and do a 30-minute session for us, super beginner. And that way people can connect into that community on that side. I have someone lined up for Hibbing. I have a name for the Virginia Mountain Iron area. And so I just am looking for that third person. And I think that's kind of it.
I have a couple names I can send to you, Miriam. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Interesting if all of us have a couple names, it'd be interesting if they're all the
They're all
same.
the
Yeah.
same, yeah. I assume they are, but maybe I'll check and make sure I'm not missing someone.
If nothing else, the vice chair of the board could probably handle that.
Yeah.
That- That's part of the duties, right?
Yeah, that's part of the duties.
You're real beginners.
All right, Orion, how are you doing there?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Orion DeFranco from Senator Tina Smith's office. No updates from me. Congress is, of course, working on finalizing a number of items ahead of the end of the year and the new session next year, but I'm just jumping on to hear what everyone has to say today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And it looks like we've got one more person, Cromley.
Is it Christine Cromley from the bank? It looks like
Maybe,
you might just, she's
yeah.
probably just listening in
Okay.
for the Northern State Bank over there.
Okay. In the room, we have Superintendent Burgess. Anything from the district you wanted to?
Yeah, so right now it's, getting towards holiday break, but there's some illness in the community and we see that in the school, we got quite a few kids out that's going on. Number two is activities are kind of in full swing right now. Our winter season is pretty busy, hockey, basketball, alpine, Nordic ski, swimming, all those things going on. Interesting fact, among Region 7A, which is kind of like districts our size and smaller in the region, Mesabi East actually has the most activities for kids among all districts in the area with some of those. So it's good that our kids get a lot of opportunities. Second kind of thing, we also this year just started registration for our college in the schools courses for second semester, which will be starting up in January. In the past, we actually only had one subject that offered college credit for courses that kids could take in the district. And this year we are up to 5 different categories that they can take college in the schools for college credit. We really put an emphasis on that because we have seen a lot of kids use that PSEO route. And one thing that happens when kids go PSEO is the funding follows them to the college. So we've got a lot higher participation in those college and the schools courses, and we're happy to see that. But it's also good because kids can get those college credits in the school and still have that kind of regular school experience for their career. So.
Thank you. Any questions, Jeff? And I believe Crystal's here. Are you wearing your United Way hat this morning?
I am. So there's a couple of course, exciting things going on with United Way. Our nonprofit agency applications are open. So if you're a nonprofit, that funding cycle closes January 9th. Look at our investment plan, and if your work falls under one of those targeted categories, please submit an application, or if you have questions, you can reach out to me. A little hint, maybe look at the ALICE data as you're filling that out, and ALICE is asset limited, income constrained, employed. And it's the data set that helps capture that missing middle of folks that are working so hard, but not enough to make ends meet and earn above those federal poverty guidelines. We have our Youth United contest open. We have 6 submissions so far. Super exciting. We have one from Biloxi and Mesabi East. I'm excited to read that one. This is an ideas contest, not an essay contest. So high school seniors in our service territory that can provide insight into what their experience is with challenges in community and some solutions are invited to apply. Those applications close January 6th. If you have an interest in circling back to the fund distribution, if you have an interest in serving on one of those panels, let me know. Typically it's been to donors and sponsors. And I don't know what it looks like this year. I haven't been through the cycle yet, so just throwing that out there. We have 42 students paired with mentors across 11 schools, and that's for our Lunch Buddies mentoring program. It's a really great opportunity to connect kiddos with a caring adult to help promote that resiliency factor that is so important in elementary students. Buddy backpacks are the weekend meal kits that go out. We give a little extra during the holidays together with hygiene kits. We know that funds this time of year, especially this year for family, is always a stretch, so we want to help support these families as much as we can, so those have been delivered. I was just telling, the new mayor that our veterans retreat is full. It's the first year that it is sold out. So this is an event, keep your eyes open for 2026. But this is an event where we bring veterans and their families together at the Grand Ely Lodge with a number of, $25 for service members gets you lodging and really great food, opportunity to connect. You can partake in as much as you want or as little as you want. So it's just a really beautiful way that we're bringing together, veterans and their families to just really strengthen that social connectedness. And then the holiday meal kits are going out. I want to say that we have 84 that are going out to veterans in the area, and then an additional 50 up in Coochin County. So we have a lot of things going on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sounds like some amazing work. We have Mayor-elect Beyondich, Credentala, Dave Settiker, and Jody's here too. Anything you wanted to share with the group?
I'll just pop in before Sean gets into the housing. So I guess you would know whether we had got the study back on the soil yet.
I've heard nothing.
Okay. So we're presumably gonna get that. We have an interested developer in the school property. He's assessing whether he can put up, an apartment or whatever configuration it is to make it work financially. The absorption rate for renters particularly won't be for dwellings to buy. So we should hear on that hopefully before next week. And that would be in conjunction with hopefully a collaboration with Orland Kringstead up in Tower with his facility up there, and the possibility that this developer may want to buy the manufacturing building, the warehouse at True Value. And the Norwegians have committed that if that's bought, they'll start manufacturing homes out of there. Homes, apartments, whatever, they can build anything out of there. So it's wait and see at this point.
Still exciting though.
Yeah, it is.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Okay, we'll jump back into the agenda. Staff activity reports, North Span, I guess that's you, Sean, you're up.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Dave said there, Apex, one of our regional partners, has been working quite a bit with Orland to do what they can to support and try to make that happen. So small steps, but that would really be great for housing in our region to have a manufacturer on the range. Huge.
I could just jump in on that. So the investment side of it actually has two backups that I contacted. Or they may be not necessarily solely wanting to step in and do the whole thing, but possibility of collaboration on the investment side of it.
Sure.
So maybe you and I can talk after. So.
Sure. I didn't see in the physical packet here the North Span report. I just wanted to confirm that.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Okay. As long as everyone else has a copy,
Yes,
I just wanted to
maybe
make
I
sure.
assumed you had your own.
Yep, we're good.
Apologies.
Okay. So we sent out the proposed scope for the housing committee to meet on an ongoing basis now that the Housing Institute has formally wrapped up. So Rosemary is still available. What is it, through February, is it, Carl?
February. We have to be about 6 months after conclusion of the.
Okay, so she's still available for some, call it light technical assistance, but for the most part, the ball is in our court. It's up to us to keep it moving. We are planning to meet again and continue meeting after the regularly scheduled board meeting. But just want to have a well-defined scope for what that is. And I guess you call it official tie-in with the board. So Carl or I can certainly answer any questions about that, but I guess otherwise we'd ask for an approval of that proposed scope with amendments if there are any.
We don't have copies.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that either. Did we send out a final copy?
So I know it was sent out last month,
Oh, okay.
and maybe it didn't get resent.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates to it from the one from
Yeah,
last month. or-
It had changed.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
it was at this point. So,
did you all read it all and have any questions from last
Yeah,
time?
I'm just going to ask if the board is comfortable moving forward with that. Were there any questions or concerns? And you'd like a motion?
yeah, I mean, ideally, we'd like to get
Okay.
the scope approved and move it forward.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, I was about to.
Yeah.
Just so we, okay, moved by Mr. Lammy, is there support? I'll support it. We're trusting that everybody reviewed it thoroughly. Hearing no questions or concerns, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Coming up in our strategic plan, are scheduling presentations to each of the individual city councils. And so we want to start getting that on the calendar and get that scheduled. I don't know if each of you know the calendar and the agenda well enough that we can schedule that now, or if we need to send out an email to figure out, what month is a good time to show up. But it's coming up to that time, so, we'll go to each individual council and do a presentation kind of on the board as a whole and, kind of what we're doing, just to make sure each community is on page with what's going on.
Is that going to proceed throughout the year? You aren't gonna try to get them all in January or anything? Because our January meeting with our reorganization and everything is pretty full.
Yeah, and I don't expect it's gonna be right away. We just wanna try to get them scheduled, so we at least know when they are and we can plan for them. So, if you gotta schedule it in April or May, or, whatever makes the most sense for you, we're flexible. But, so yeah, I don't know that it really matters that we get them all done in the same month. I mean, it is kind of nice to know that everybody's got the same information at the same time. Hopefully foster some of those community conversations or whatever it might be, but, that there is a different point we will get to talking about trying to get everybody together. So this is really just focused on individual communities.
Okay.
You'd like to hear back from each of the entities?
Yeah, essentially when, maybe if there are a couple of dates or a couple of meetings that could work, we can check our schedules to see what would work best. I think that's something we'd rather have emailed.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hoyt Lakes will have a vacancy, and so we wouldn't wanna do that until after that vacancy is filled.
Oh, okay. When is that?
So the vacancy will be declared at the first meeting in January. I assume they're gonna go out for appointments through applications.
We go out, probably in the same boat.
Yeah, we're gonna end up doing a special meeting on February before a regular meeting, but March 10th at 6 p.m. would be great for you guys, or April 14th, one of those two. And we'll have all that squared away by then for sure.
March 10th or April 14th?
Yeah.
What time are those?
6 p.m.
Did you have anything else to add on that, Carl?
Yeah, I think we're flexible on when they are, but it's just a great opportunity to just make sure all the councils are updated and get to meet us in person too, which is helpful. I know that information is being sent along, but it's nice to get in front of people.
There's gonna be a lot of new faces in several
Yeah.
communities too, so.
Mhm. And that segues into our next bullet point here. So it's listed as the East Range Summit concept. Carl and I were in conversation. One of the strategic directions was getting everybody together, or at least the individual communities, for kind of a group discussion, or really getting like the other counselors who maybe never show up to a East Range Powers meeting to, get them a little more engaged, a little more informed. I know they can read the minutes. Hopefully most of them do, but not necessarily all the time. And so we were kind of brainstorming about, who else should be in the room, or who would be of value to bring into the discussion. And, as it tends to be, like, the circle got bigger and bigger, and it's like, okay, well, if we include this group, then we need to include that group. But it really seemed more beneficial than just getting the municipalities together, getting, like Celebrate Aurora and Baca and the Economic Development Committee, and, so some of the different groups that are people who tend to show up to a lot of things and have a lot to do with what's going on in the East Range, and getting people together for probably a day or half a day, depending upon how we flesh it out. And so we're just kind of putting the feeler out there to see what the boards, do you like that idea, or you're like, no, that seems like too much time. There would have to be some discussion about allocation for time to organize it, just because to organize something of that level would be a little more intensive than I think what we've otherwise got in the contract. But Al, I know we've got people at North Span that do a lot of event organizing, and so we're totally better at it than I am.
If you're thinking during the work week, a majority of my council works, and so it would have to be in the evening if you're looking for them to show up.
Okay.
I think like Water Carnival would be the same way. A lot of the members in that committee work during the day, and so that kind of limits people like me and Luke can show up because it's part of our job description, but there's a lot of people who it wouldn't necessarily fall in their jobs. They'd be unable to make it during the workday.
I guess the follow-up question to that is, if it were in the evening so that people could go, would they?
No.
I mean, you throw free food and daycare at it, a lot more people show up. I'm generally a fan of having those two things if you want people to actually show up.
And around here, I think just Wednesdays are probably a good day because there's no sports. There's generally not many, council meetings aren't typically on a Wednesday, so that might be a good day to pick.
Do you see the meeting, if it were expanded to be a kind of a working meeting generally, and then break up into small segments, like, as an example, like some of the IRRR meetings had been, you have a general meeting and then you.
Like housing or
Yeah,
daycare
exactly.
specific.
Yeah.
Probably, depending upon where people's interests are, and,
Yeah.
really trying to facilitate conversation and action around the specific topics, but also starting with that higher level conversation about the big picture. So yeah, similar to that. Do you have anything to add on this idea, or what it might look like, Carl?
Yeah, I think we're just very open to what the format looks like, open to ideas, but I think it would be a great way to just bring some people together. And again, talking about how there are a number of new people in different positions across the East Range. And I think we've, this has come up repeatedly in some of our other discussions about how there are a lot of individual groups doing a lot of great things, but they don't always necessarily come together, at least. So at least getting the opportunity to cross-pollinate a little bit seems like a great idea. And so I think, this will be months out by the time we get to it, but I think it gives us time to think about what it looks like. And it can be a great way just to build some momentum around East Range activity generally. So I think it's a fun concept. So I'm hopeful that we can make it happen.
Yeah, Carl brought up a good point. I forgot from our initial conversation is with transition in different communities. It's also, you know, a good way for people who maybe aren't as plugged in as people who are transitioning out. To find out, you know, kind of what those other pockets of activity are and what other people are up to. But we'll, I guess, bring this up again and, you know, for additional feedback, to figure out if it's something that we should pursue. I mean, it would obviously be a bit further out, probably sometime like summer or fall, probably, to give us enough time. On the cannabis discussion, we covered most of it with the task forces. I just wanted to circle back around. I had encouraged the communities to essentially make sure that there's consistency both on the consumer side for where consumption is allowed and on the business side for essentially where permitting, where selling is allowed. And Becky had forwarded me the ordinance from White Lakes. And so it is a prohibitive ordinance, and that it says essentially you can't do it anywhere in public space, but you can do it in these spaces. So you can't, you know, walk down the sidewalk and play that joint. Which I think is probably the approach the legislature should have taken, but they didn't. So without that, my understanding is anywhere without a local ordinance, anywhere it is permitted by the Clean Air Act, they can light up. So anywhere somebody can smoke a cigarette, they can smoke a joint. And Becky was also able to verify for me that vapes are covered under the Indoor Act, or the Clean Air Act rather. So essentially, in order to be able to smoke a vape, same rules as cigarettes, which you might not guess from all the places you see people smoking vapes, but technically they're only allowed to smoke those where they can smoke cigarettes. I guess one question I had for you, Becky, I saw in there something to the effect of unless otherwise permitted or licensed
Yes,
for
so
events.
the city has a special event permit.
Okay,
The big one is Water Carnival.
sure.
And so if Water Carnival comes to us and says we would like it to be permitted, the city could exempt that. event particularly.
Will that potentially also be applied to establishments? The way it was worded, it seemed like it could be events or businesses maybe.
Right, well, businesses are listed separately, so if they're a licensed business for on-site consumption, they'd already be exempted. The other one could be like, I can't think that the council would ever approve it, but like the arena, like
Sure.
you're holding a wedding there, you ask for the exemption. I don't think the council would ever approve it, but that would be a question where you could ask.
Okay.
Because like, we don't allow on-site consumption of alcohol at the arena unless you have a liquor license that's approved for there.
So I know each of the communities is kind of doing their own thing with that, but I guess I kind of offer that as a baseline or a place to start from, in part for that consistency. And, you know, I know Boavic, at least for the moment, has kind of taken a no stance, or that was kind of my impression on it. And you know, you don't necessarily have to license a place to go in the middle of town, but you can start by, you know, prohibiting consumption in public places. And if you want to designate, okay, these are the places you can do it, or, you know, create whatever that framework is, so you can deal with it further on. And, you know, with where the county and the state are at, you know, how much of this is actually immediately relevant, I don't know. I mean, right now, technically, people can grow their own, and so you could have somebody smoking on Main Street potentially. But you know, whatever the rules end up being, and you know, who knows what the state's gonna end up doing, probably not much. It really is gonna fall to the local communities to decide what their rules are, so. And we're certainly available to help with, you know, whatever resources we can, and, you know, facilitating discussion, or, you know, I don't know what we can find out about rules where they are right now anyway, although they are subject to change once Office of Cannabis Management is actually going full board. Were there any questions or comments or anything about that, or? And capital projects coordination, at the admins meeting, we talked about, IRRR is actively pursuing some federal energy money. And, want input, there's a survey I forwarded to the admins of the communities. We've got until end of day tomorrow to fill it out, so, if anybody hasn't filled that out, I encourage them to do so. In terms of any kind of common messaging, unfortunately, it was just Luke and I at the admin meeting, so we had a good conversation about it, but I think one of the ideas that kind of floated to the top was solar array that could provide energy for the East Range. And I think kind of the consensus we came to anyway would see how big of a pile of money we could get and then do the backwards math to figure out how much energy that gets us. I mean, ideally, we'd be able to provide energy for the East Range, or at bare minimum, replace whatever is being lost at Laskin. Because that is transitioning out, and that's part of the leverage for different monies that are available, is White Lakes being a transition community, and Aurora being an environmental justice community. White Lakes isn't, I'm sure, but I don't draw the maps. But at least with the main federal, it's a federal rural energy grant that the IRRR is kind of guiding the conversation around, and depending upon the scope of the project, that one source is up to $50 million. And so we're potentially talking about a good chunk of change, especially when you look at whatever funds might be available from the IRRR, from the state, hopefully from energy transition. And I read through and it potentially could check a lot of the boxes for them. It's like, you got to do this or you got to do this. And it's really about building rural energy resilience, making sure that we've got a resilient grid so that if power goes out somewhere else, we don't lose it here. And I forget where I heard it, but someone used the analogy of Minnesota's energy plan being running an extension cord to North Dakota. And that is a perfect analogy because that is essentially our official plan right now. Because wind energy, in terms of renewables, is the most effective, cost effective per kilowatt hour. It's just way cheaper than solar. But North Dakota is where most of that generation is happening. And so it's already been underway. It is underway to create a frankly gigantic transmission line to North Dakota to pull that wind power, which is all well and good. And we need cost effective electricity. But we also need to make sure we've got local resilience so that the extension cord shorts out or something happens, that we've still got local sources of energy. So I think it's an important project, and I think there's a lot of potential to leverage funds right now. So just very much encourage people to fill out that survey. I don't recall if it was trying to limit it to one per community, but even if, other people representing the communities filled it out, I don't think it would hurt. Because that will definitely help to guide the conversation with the IRRR, who's gonna essentially look to spearhead a regional application. And that's good for us because then, if it's a coordinated broader effort and they're willing to sign on and say, okay, this is the pony we're picking, then we've got a lot better chance of tying into that for them. And the IRRR counts as local funds to match the federal dollars, which is good. Do you have anything to add on that, Carl? Okay. With that, just two quick things that didn't make it to the list there. The Rams dinner is coming up. And so I strongly encourage people or someone from each community to attend. I had a good talk with Paul about how the politics of the Rams board works. So essentially each community gets like a vote essentially, and whoever shows up to the annual meeting essentially networks the room, and then, you know, the vote happens and each community gets a vote. So not everybody is on the board. Case in point right now, Virginia School District's not on the board. Because at the last annual meeting, they didn't have anybody trying to get on the board, so they're not represented. I think he said neither is him. There were a couple of big ones that you would expect that weren't, because they weren't aware or didn't care or whatever it is, they did not go. And cooperation is one of the things that makes this a powerful organization, but I think the best way to leverage that power, or one of the best ways, is through RAMs, because they have such a strong advocacy arm. And that if the 4 communities of the East Range go to RAMs and say, okay, we want this to happen, all of a sudden you've got 4 communities out of the 62 that they serve, which, you know, isn't enough to say this definitely will happen, but it's already like moving. And so just that the coordination and the agreement here on the joint powers level can kind of be leveraged up with RAMs, I think, and pull in other communities, so long as it's, you know, something that generally applies. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of the annual dinner and encourage the individual communities to have a representative present. Make sure, you know, we've at least got somebody on the RAMs board, if not all 4 communities, you know, 1 or 2, to make sure that we've got somebody. And it's any elected official, right?
Yes, it has to be elected.
Has to be elected, so.
You have to hold an election certificate at the time that you are appointed or elected.
Okay. At the time you're appointed.
And I think the nominations closed last week, so.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, the
Okay.
9th.
Okay. The other one, I've talked a little bit about placer AI analysis that U's potentially gonna give us a quote on. They actually did some of the preliminary work. And so instead of a dollar number or giving you more information on that at the marketing committee, we're gonna talk about all that information and see what we can figure out, and we might not even need to spend any money. So that could be even better. And it's kind of figuring out what the key events are on the East Range that are bringing in people. To that, I have a question for the room, because I honestly don't know what goes on in January that pulls in a bunch of people. Because it's not on our signature events list right now, and the closest thing I could find, and like maybe, was the Vermilion Snowmobile Club had a run at some point in January, but I mean, we're talking about, when I just looking at the initial graph, we're pulling people outside of the area, so from more than 50 miles away. It is a bigger event than Water Carnival, which is the second one during the course of the year. I was like, what is this? Because I don't know. And I don't know if like Giants Ridge has something going on, or if there's something else, but it was a very notable spike in the number of people from outside the area. Guesses as to what that is.
Is it like one weekend or?
So, and we'll discuss this more at the
Yeah.
marketing committee. It's not detailed information. I've got a year-long like line graph that's like compressed into this. So I can tell you it's approximately the middle of January, like probably like the second, maybe third weekend would be my guess. But it's not like a date for date. But you can pretty tell where the weekends are.
Cause my guess would be Giants Ridge, cause I don't, the only thing we have going on is our audit in January.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, like just people snowmobiling.
Yeah.
and ice
Is that the
fishing,
ALS
like,
run,
is it
maybe?
just-
They do the big ALS run with the Vikings thing and all that.
It's a cross-country race there.
The crowd. Oh, I guess
They do their
you're talking about the Great River Energy or Pepsi Challenge?
Pepsi Challenge.
Oh,
That's in March.
That's in March now.
Yep.
Does the marketing committee have, is somebody from Giants Ridge?
Yes.
Park, yes. Yeah. And we'll certainly follow up with them. this
Like, is there a
afternoon.
big ski event for
Yeah,
schools, you
that
know,
would be my
like
guess.
during that time?
It could be, you know, maybe.
So I know
maybe
there's a
ski
big one
tournament
held at
or
Giants
something.
Ridge where the
Yeah.
schools come.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can look when I get back to the office too. I'll look because they reserve a bunch of stuff in White Lakes, like the community building and stuff, so I'll see
Okay.
when they reserve that.
That could be. Or maybe it's just the peak of snowmobile and
Mm.
ski season and those two kind of combined to get a lot of people into the area, but it was interesting because it was kind of an unknown opportunity. So just wanted to bring that up and we'll, I guess, circle back after we've discussed more at the marketing committee. That is all I've got.
Are there any questions for Sean or for Carl? We'll throw him under the bus too. Yes, not. Thank you, Sean. Moving on to the agenda, that's the joint water project, and Luke says he can provide us with an update.
Yeah, and because we moved this meeting forward, there really isn't a whole lot to update on. Typically our big days tomorrow when we've got the water board meeting, and then we've got all of our construction meetings, and actually then we've got meetings at Point Lake, so there's like 4 water meetings in one Wednesday, which is tomorrow. I will say that if you drive out west, you can see the raw water building is being built. There's all kinds of material out there. There's a structure going up. So that is in full swing. It was, we said at the last meeting, Scenic Acres is online. I think 34 of the 36 residents have signed up right now, or maybe we're waiting on 1 or 2, but almost all the paperwork is done out there. That was quite a success. There's nothing that's holding it up. There's nothing that, everything's just went along nicely. So there's really, no news is good news kind of an update, I guess. That's all I got.
I have to ask, if there are 2 that haven't signed up, what is their alternative? Can they still access the well?
They just haven't got their paperwork, and I think one of them's in Arizona, and I'm not sure what the other one's waiting for, but
They're planning on drinking lake water.
yeah, correct. So.
Community projects and updates, I guess Aurora's up. It's you again, Luke.
Yeah, so we have a company meeting tonight. We're going to advertise for bids to receive utilities being installed for the community infrastructure project out there. And that's our big housing project. So we feel if we bid out in January, we'll get some favorable bids because not a lot of work has been done for 2025. And again, that hits 3 buckets. It improves utilities that are there already for the residents that are in that area. So we're gonna improve existing utilities. We're gonna stub out 11 houses, 1/4 acre lots. So we'll have those all stubbed out. And then it also increases the utilities for the industrial park, and it ties all that in. So when a tenant gets there, they'll be able to serve the industrial park. That's also our CDBG ask. We asked for $300,000 for that. If we get half, I think we'll be lucky. What I've been told is the county has a record number of requests this year, 6 million, I think. And they've got 1.5 in the bucket. So their take is that rather than giving everybody like $5,000, they want to fund projects so they can actually get some useful dollars rather than just a little bit that isn't going to help. So they think for the first time not to turn down quite a few people this year. So it should be fairly competitive. Without that money, we're going to be putting this in regardless. It's got to get going. So we do have a temporary warming shack that's heated and ready to go down there. We've been flooding the outdoor rink, and that will be ready by the end of the week. So Christmas break is always our target. So we'll have outdoor skating ready to go. Our industrial park is all the forms have been done and the foundation has been poured. So all the concrete work is done. So we'll be looking for panels to get swung on that fairly quickly. We do not have anybody lined up for the building yet, because that's usually the next question that we get. But ERJPB is certainly out there hitting the pavement, looking for future tenants. And other than that, I mean, we've got a wastewater plant upgrade that we're still going to bid out here in January. And that's a mercury reduction, which White Lakes just went through. And we've got about 80 to 85% grant on that. It's gonna be a $15 million project, and we've got about $12 million in grant funds. So we'll bid that out as well in January. So still lots going on. And that's about it.
Any questions for Luke? I'll turn this over to the mayor-elect in a moment, but we did set our levy last week, which I'm sure you're all doing. The budget committee did some sort of magic, and our 19% levy came in at 9%. So kudos to them for doing that. I'm not going to speak to Vinox Fest because I missed it, and Steve was in the middle of the whole day. So I'll let you
still haven't
share
recovered.
anything you want to share.
Yeah, just on the community event, everything went well, and that does bring in, it's a nice draw of people from all over. Back to your point, everything went great this year on that deal. Otherwise, other than kind of in transition here and doing a turnover, there's not too much on the forefront going on right now, so. Anything that comes to mind otherwise
We will have one new counselor take the seat in January, and then Steve's seat will be vacated, and so at some point point to the second one. So
yeah, we've got a plan kind of in place to bring into the January meeting. We're gonna roll our reorganizational regular in, because we've got one of our seated counselors now is gonna be gone, and the administrator is gonna be gone. Nobody's gonna be around, so it's like, well, let's just roll it all into one meeting, get it done, and then we'll seat our new council member probably through appointment, because we've never done a special election, and I can't imagine people want to spend the money on that, but we should have them seated by the February meeting with the use of a special meeting in there, so.
some new faces in Wabic too. Dave, did you have anything you wanted to share?
No, not really, no. Just a question just occurred to me on Luke's thing, on the Mercury thing, with the change of administration and the possible loosening of regulations, might that just go away?
No, that's a done deal.
Okay.
Like that. Mercury is a done deal for the state, but with PFAS, that's the next big one. That might see some changes with that one, because that's the next one they're gonna start regulating, so. But this one's a done deal, and the monies are already there, it's already written into the permits, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So. I think there would be lots of lawsuits for the towns that did have to comply with it, and then magically we wouldn't have to, because there's a lot already that have already been sticking money to their plans, so.
Is PFAS much of an issue up here?
Oh,
I think
yes.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Becky White Lakes.
I don't really have much. We also passed our levy. We did not reduce it, so it's still at 26%, but we also had no one attend our truth and taxation meeting. From what I'm hearing from the public is most people's taxes went down, unless you built a new house like Jerry did, and then her taxes went up a lot because she has a house now.
Not as much as I thought they'd go up though, so that's good.
Good.
They'll get me eventually.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah,
There's a 1-year lag.
Yeah, there's a,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've heard of the people who thought their taxes were gonna go up, went up, but not as much as they anticipated, and a majority of the, legacy homes in town, their taxes went down. So, both with Family Dollar coming on and the tax credit they received, it's been pretty helpful for people in town. We're looking towards our audit. We will be closed the first full week in January. The city clerk's office typically closes the first full week in January in preparation of our audit, because it is so quick. It's the second week in January, third week in January, so we don't have a lot of processing time. So we do close for that. And then other than that, looking forward to the new council being seated.
What is the marketing plan to start bringing in more business into the arena to help offset the large?
You'll have to ask the new council.
Okay, thanks, Becky.
Well, our dome roof, it started after the snow flew. I'm not sure how close it is being done, but their equipment is still there and they aren't. The crew that's supposed to be working. So I think it could be done until the snow melts or the warmer weather comes in. To play for that, fire hall's in progress, rebuilding the fire hall. It's going along slowly, but it's getting done. It's gonna be very nice when it's done. The crews have been awful busy with the icy roads and stuff, you know, you got so many miles of it, you gotta keep going. And then we did choose at the township to replace one of our pieces of equipment, one of our graders that we had major problems with. We got rid of it and got a different one. And it was my understanding the replacement wasn't supposed to come till February. Well, it showed up this week. It's there already, so apparently they must have had one someplace that we were after. Well, but things are coming along. Les Gannon is in full swing. We're at least, if it keeps snowing, we'll have plenty of snow to build the slides. Stuff, if it doesn't, well, I don't know what we're gonna do with that, but end up having to truck it in from someplace, but. Other than that, things are there, you know, you had made a comment before about things going on in January. They used to have a fishing contest and everything out at Whitewater, and they had those snowmobile speed runs and stuff with the all that stuff, and it all disappeared. And then I was reading the DNR site, and I guess I was shocked to see that they don't recommend eating the fish out of Whitewater Lake.
Correct.
Yeah, and they haven't bothered to stock it in years. You know, and it's, you know, you hate to see a nice facility like that and a nice lake like that go on the sewer. You know, but I don't know what's going on there. But those are things that would probably come back, but usually in January, it's pretty darn chilly. So it's hard to have a big event, so. Other than that, things are normal.
Okay, thank you. We do have one item of other business, the approval of the 2025 meeting schedule.
I would make one suggestion to move the December 23rd meeting to the 16th of the week.
I don't know why you wanna move it. Is it around the holiday or?
I just have a hint, feeling that people may be gone.
I think so. Yeah, that would be the only comment I had, if that would be the scheduled day, but I assume we could move that.
So that sounds like a motion.
Sure was.
Is there support? Supported by Chair Hickley. Any further discussion? Look good to everybody? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
And I'll send that out to all the administrators to post at the city halls. They change that.
All right, we've reached the end of the agenda. It is 9:54. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So.
Support.
By Chair Kickley and supported by Administrator Langley. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. It's a wrap. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Let me know, these goes back when Doug is in here.